Hey guys, in this video we're going to build a custom Bootstrap theme, and we're going to be using Sass, which is a CSS pre-compiler. Alright, now this is a project-based video, so I'm not going to go too much into tutorial content and really explaining the syntax and methodology and all that. If you follow along, it's actually really easy. We will be using quite a few different technologies, but just very simple stuff. So this is what we'll be building. This is a Bootstrap template, and the idea is that we're using Sass so that we can have variables where we can just simply change a color, change a value in the Sass file, and everything, all the main colors will change. We can easily change font sizes. Just makes things very, very customizable. Alright, so we just have a nav bar with some icons up here, some links, a main showcase area with a stock photo in the background. We have this area here with some icons from Font Awesome. Right here we have an image, and then we have a Bootstrap Accordion menu. Then we have a newsletter subscribe form down here, and a footer. It's a very simple footer. Alright, the inner pages are really simple as well. We just have a title bar with the page name. We have a panel with some content, and then a list group over here. Alright, and I kept the email form on every page. Services, same thing. We just have a panel with some wells with some different services, and then a very simple contact form. Alright, so it's not the greatest template in the world, but it's something to build, and I think it looks pretty decent. Alright, so this is the Sass website, sasslang.com. Shows us pretty much everything that it offers, variables. You can see here we're setting a primary color using a hexadecimal value, and then we can use that in our styles. Okay, right here you can see that variables need to start with a $sign. We can also nest styles, so you can see we have a nav here, and then we can add ULs or whatever we want to style inside of that nav. Alright, so we can essentially structure the CSS just like our HTML. Partials, we can include partials. We can import other Sass files. You can see that they use a SCSS extension. Mix-ins, which are like functions. We can extend and inherit classes, and we can use operators, and you can even have if statements and things like that, but we're not going to get too deep into it. Now, Sass has to be compiled into regular CSS so that you can use it in your theme or in your website. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. You can do it simply through the command line if you want, but we're going to use a GUI tool called Koala, which is very simple. You basically just got to tell it where to look for the Sass file, and it'll compile it for you automatically as long as it's running. So that's one thing we need to install, and then we also want to install Node.js, because we're going to use a couple things from the NPM from Node package modules, including Bower, which is a client-side package manager. So we'll use Bower to install Bootstrap and Font Awesome. Alright, so I already have Node.js installed. If you don't, just go ahead and download it and install it. I don't have Koala installed, so I'm going to just go ahead and download that. Okay, go ahead and click the download, and let's save this into downloads. It's a really small program. Alright, so we'll just run that and install it. Okay, let's just click next and next. Close that up. Alright, so that's all set. We can keep that checked and click finish, and it'll launch Koala for us. Alright, now we're not going to touch it yet. We're going to go ahead and create a folder to build the theme in. I'm going to go into my C drive, and then let's see, projects, and I'm going to create a folder, and I'm just going to call this biz light _ theme. Alright. Now in here we want to set up Bootstrap. All right, now you could just download it from Get Bootstrap if you want, but a more, I guess, modern way to do it is to use something like Bower, which is a package manager. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a command line in Windows. And if you want to use PowerShell, or if you're using a Mac or Linux, you can use your terminal. But we're going to go ahead and cd into our projects folder. So projects and what did I call it? BizLite theme. All right. So you should have Node.js installed, which will give you npm, and then you want to install Bower. So we want to say npm install -g, which means you want to install it globally so that you can access it from anywhere. All right, and then we want to say Bower. Alright, so now that we have Bower installed, we can install Bootstrap-sass. So we want to say Bower install Bootstrap-sass, and then we want to add --save. And what that's going to do is it's going to create a folder called Bower Components. And if we look in there, we have our Bootstrap-sass folder, which has everything we need for Bootstrap. It also installs jQuery, because in order to use the Bootstrap JavaScript, you need to have jQuery, so it handles that dependency for you, which is really nice, so we don't have to worry about installing jQuery separately. So now what we want to do is go back outside of the Bower components, right in the theme folder, and we're going to create a folder called Sass, which is where all of our SCSS files will go, and then also a folder called Style Sheets, which is where the compiled CSS will go that we actually use, that we include in our index.html file. Alright, now inside the Sass folder, we're going to create a file, and we're going to call this app.scss. This is basically where we want to connect all of our Sass files together, where we want to import them. Now I'm going to open up my editor, and I'm using Atom, which I would recommend. It's free, it's really nice, has a lot of features, it's nice and clean. And we're going to add that folder to our project. Okay, so I'm going to just open up the BizLite theme. Okay, now if we look in Bower Components and then Bootstrap-sass and then Assets, you'll see we have this Style Sheets. If we look inside there, we have this main bootstrap_bootstrap.scss, and basically what this does, it imports all the different features of Bootstrap, because each feature has its own SCSS file. If we look in this folder here, you'll see alert, badges, carousel, Nav Bar. They all have their own SCSS file, and then that main bootstrap file connects them all. So what we want to do is import that main bootstrap file into our app.scss file. So let's do that. So let's see, right here we want to do import, and we want to go .. and then into Bower Components /bootstrap-sass /assets /style sheets /bootstrap. Alright, and notice I don't need the underscore, because when you have an underscore, that's basically you want to use it as a partial, and you don't need to include it here. Alright, now there's also, if we look in that style sheets, there's a Bootstrap Compass file as well. Now, we're not using Compass, which is a CSS authoring framework. We're not using that, but I do want to include that file. So I'm going to copy this, and we'll paste that in, and right here we just want to say bootstrap-compass. Alright, so let's go ahead and save that. Now right now we're not getting, this isn't compiling because we haven't added the project to Koala. So we're going to do that now. So in Koala we're going to click the plus sign, and we're going to navigate to our projects folder, and where is it? Bizlite theme, and then Sass, and then click OK. Alright, now if we click on that, you'll see that it's checked to auto compile, so that's good, that's what we want. And it should have compiled, so let's take a look. If we look in CSS, in the CSS folder, we now have app.css. And if we take a look at that, you'll see that it includes Bootstrap, it includes everything. Alright, it's actually a pretty big file. Okay, so it includes all of that. If we look in here, everything that's in all of these files right here, it includes. Alright, so that's good, that's what we want. So now what we want to do is create an index.html in our root. Let's say new file, index.html, and we'll just add some basic HTML here. Actually, you know what we'll do is we'll copy some code from the Get Bootstrap website. So let's go to Get Bootstrap and Getting Started, and then Examples. And you can see we have this starter template. I'm going to click on that and then do a Control U. Alright, and then we'll just copy everything that's here and we'll paste it in our index.html. Alright, now we can get rid of a lot of this stuff. Let's get rid of this icon, description, author. We're going to keep the viewport because this is going to be a responsive theme. For the title, let's change that to Bizlite theme. Let's see, we're not going to need any of these CSS references. We only need to reference our one app.css file. Alright, that's what's great about Sass, is that it will take all of your CSS files and combine them. So let's say link rel style sheet, and then we want to include href, and let's see, we have that in CSS. Alright, you know what, I created a folder called style sheets. We actually don't need that since it compiled it into the CSS file folder. So css/app.css. Alright, so let's see, down here we're going to get rid of all these script includes as well. So let's save that, and we'll go and try to open up that index.html with Chrome. And there we go. So you can see that the CSS is being included. Now the reason that this is underneath the Nav Bar is because of this class right here, Nav Bar fixed top. I'm actually going to get rid of that. And I'm going to change Nav Bar inverse to Nav Bar default. Save that. And there we go. So let's just recap what we did, what's happening. Okay, we installed Bootstrap-sass with Bower, which resides in Bower components. We have in Bootstrap-sass all of these SCSS files that are being imported into this one Bootstrap SCSS file. And then what we're doing is we're importing that into our, into our app CSS file right here, as well as the Compass version. And then we're compiling it using Koala into app CSS. Alright, and then we're just including that in our HTML right here. So that's what we've done so far. Hopefully that's not confusing. Now right now we're loading this index.html file right from the file system, and that's fine if you want to keep doing that, but what I want to do is install a dev server using npm and actually run it in a server. So I'm going to go to my command line, and we're going to say npm install -g for global, and then live server. Alright, I already have it installed, so I'm not going to run it, but once you do that, you should be able to run live server, and make sure you're in the the theme folder. Alright, now by default it's going to start on port 8080, which may be fine for you, but that's being used on my machine. So I'm going to specify --port equals 8000, and that will just start it on port 8000. So now you can see I'm on my local host on the loopback address here, and port 8000. And now if I go and I change something, let's see, let's change this project name right here. We're going to change it to BizLite theme and save it, and you'll see that it should reload. There it goes. Okay, so it reloads without me having to actually click the reload button, which is nice. Alright, so now that that's done, we're going to set up a Sass file for our variables. Now if we look in the Bootstrap-sass folder and go into the style sheets, Bootstrap, you'll see there's a file called _variables.css. This holds all the variables for everything, for the nav bar, for the main background, anything that is a variable is in this file. Now I don't want to edit this file directly. What I want to do is copy everything in it. So just copy everything, and then we're going to go into our Sass folder and create a new file, and I'm going to call it custom variables.scss, actually _ custom variables, since it's a partial. And then we're going to paste everything in there and then save it. Alright, now what we want to do is go to app.scss, and we just want to import that up here. So we're going to say import and then custom variables. Okay, notice we don't need the underscore and we don't need the .scss. So let's go ahead and save that. Okay, that reloads. Now we should be able to change stuff from here in the custom variables file, and it should change on our site, on our theme. So let's look for the nav bar area. It's well commented, so you should be able to find it. Let's see, nav tabs, right here, nav bar. Okay, we're using the nav bar default class. If you were using nav bar inverse, you would use these ones. So let's go and change the height of the nav bar. I want it a little bigger, so I'm going to change it from 50 to 70. Alright, so if you look at it up here, once I save it, it should reload. And you can see that now it's bigger. Alright, so we can edit this file, edit the variables here, and it'll reflect in our theme. Okay. Now I want to have a variable up at the top that's going to be the main color of the template. So let's put an area here for custom, and we're going to say main color. Alright, and the main color I want is that light blue color, which is a hexadecimal of 1A8C97. Okay, that's going to be our main color. Now we want to implement that in a few different places. One is going to be the nav bar. Alright, so if we go down to where we just were, the nav bar. Let's see, I want to put this right here, nav bar default BG, which right now is this value, which is this light gray. So I'm going to replace this with main color. Okay, and we'll save that. Let it reload. And now it's that bluish greenish color. Now if you look at the text is not what we want. We want that to be white. So let's change right here, nav bar links. We're going to change this to FFF, which is white. Same thing here, here, and that should do it. So let's save it, let it reload, and now we have white text. I also want the hover. When we hover over it, I want it to have this color background. Now another really nice feature of Sass is that you can actually use percentages for the color. For instance, if we look right here, what this is doing as far as the colors, it's taking this color and passing it in a function called darken, and then it's adding a percentage. Okay, so it'll darken whatever this color is by that percentage. So what we want is the hover, which by default is transparent. That's why we don't see anything when we hover, but we want to change that to darken. Let's see, darken, and we're going to pass in here. Actually, you know what? We'll just copy this whole thing, and we'll put that there. Okay, so now if we save that, now when we hover over it, we get that effect, that color. Alright, good. The next thing I want to do is implement Font Awesome, which gives us a bunch of icons. And Font Awesome actually uses Sass as well. So let's go to our command line, and let's see, we're going to stop the server for a minute with Control-C twice, and then we're going to say, we're going to use Bower, install Font Awesome, and then we want to add -- save. Okay, so that'll install Font Awesome just like it did with Bootstrap-sass. So let's go ahead and run the server again. Live server port 8000. Okay, that'll open up. And then if we look in our Bower components, we now have Font Awesome inside the Bower components. So there's a folder called SCSS, and inside there's a fontawesome.scss. And just like with Bootstrap, it includes all of these other Sass files. So we just need to import this one into our main SCSS file. So let's do that. Alright, let's put this right at the bottom here. I'm just going to copy that, and then we'll just go ahead in here and say Font Awesome /SCSS /Font Awesome. Alright, so we'll save that. And then there's one other thing we need to do before the icons will actually show up. Let's see, we're going to go into the folder. Where is it? BizLight theme. And what we're going to do is go in the Font Awesome inside the Bower components and grab the fonts folder, copy it, and then we're going to bring it into our main project, into the root, and we're going to paste it in. Alright, because that's where it's going to look. So now we're going to add our social icons up here. So let's go ahead and open up, we'll go back to the index HTML page, and I'm going to copy this UL right here, and we'll paste that in like that. And then we're going to add a class here called Navbar right, and that'll float it over to the right. And then we're going to get rid of this active class here, and let's actually get rid of all but one here. And the link will go to http twitter.com. And then what we want to do is we want to put in a Font Awesome icon here. So we want to use an I tag, and then class equals FA, and then FA-Twitter. Okay, that's the class to get the Twitter icon. And let's try that out. So if we save that, now you can see we have the Twitter icon. Alright, we're going to do the same for the other networks. So let's just copy that, and I'm going to make this bigger, this wider. Alright, and let's see, we'll just paste this in here. So we're going to have Twitter, and then we're going to have Facebook. I'm going to change this class as well to Facebook. Let's do Google+. And if you go to the Font Awesome site, close these out, and we click on icons, you'll see that there is a ton of them. Okay, so pretty much an icon for whatever you need. And we're looking at these brand icons right here. For instance, Facebook is right here. You could also use Facebook Square, Facebook Official. There's a lot of them. Alright, so let's go ahead and finish this up. So we have Google+, FA Google Plus, and let's do LinkedIn. So So fa-LinkedIn, and let's save that. Oh, that's not right. There we go. So now we have our icons. Now up to this point we've only edited the variables. We haven't created any of our custom styles. So we're going to create another SCSS file in the Sass folder, and we're going to call it _custom.scss. Alright, and then we just want to import that in here, but at the bottom. So we want to say import custom. Alright, so this is where any custom styles we have will go. Now let's put in the Nav Bar. And what I want to do is I want these icons to be a little bigger. Now we can use nesting. Normally we would have to do like Nav Bar and then .fa if we wanted to do that. But with Sass we can actually include that in here. We can nest it just like we would HTML. So let's say font size, and we'll set that to 18 pixels. Save that, and you can see that those are now a little bigger. Okay, next thing we want to do is the showcase. We want to work on that main showcase area. So let's go back to index.html, and we're going to go down here, and we're going to get rid of all of this. Alright, and then this will be the showcase area. So let's create a div. We'll give it a class of showcase. And inside the showcase we want a container. And inside the container let's put an h1, and this is going to say got ideas, and then we'll have a paragraph, and let's give that paragraph a class of lead, which is a Bootstrap class. And I'm going to grab some dummy text and just paste that in here. Alright, so just a couple sentences of dummy text. And if you want to generate some dummy text, you can go to I think it's lipsum.com and just click this generate button, and gives you a couple paragraphs of dummy text. So under the paragraph we're going to have a button or a link that's formatted as a button. So let's see, we'll just have this go to about.html, and then we want to add a class of btn and btn primary, and that'll just say read more. So let's save that. Okay, so that's what it looks like. Now we want our background image. So let's see, free stock photos. I'm going to go to this pexels.com, and let's see, the image that I want is here somewhere. Let's search for business. Right here. This is the image that I'm going to use. So you guys can go ahead and download this. I'm going to get the 1920 by 1280 version and click download. And I'm going to save it into, let's see, projects, BizLight theme, and I'm going to create a folder here called IMG. I'm going to save it in there, and I'm going to save it as a file called showcase.jpg. So now what we want to do is go into our custom SCSS, and we want to add in here showcase, and showcase is going to have a background, which will be a URL, and we're going to say no repeat, and inside here let's do .. then we want to go into the image folder and then showcase.jpg. Alright, so let's go ahead and save that, and if we look in the front end, now you can see the images in the background. Alright, so obviously we need to make this bigger. I also want to get rid of this space right here. This comes from the Nav Bar. It actually has a margin. So let's go to the, Nav Bar. Make sure you're not inside the FA. and let's do margin bottom, and we're going to set that to 0. Okay, save that, and now that space is gone. So back to the showcase. Let's add a height to that. So we'll set that to 600 pixels. And we're also going to set padding. We want 30 pixels on the top and bottom. Alright, let's save that. Okay, now I want this image moved up a little more. So we're just going to add, after this no repeat, we want 0, and then we're going to bring it up negative 100 pixels. Okay, so that'll just push it up a little bit. Alright, now the H1, I want that to be bigger, so I'm going to nest that inside of here. We'll put an H1, and let's say font size, and we're going to set that to 60 pixels. Alright, now this whole area right here, I want to have a clear background, so we're going to add some styles to the container. Make sure this container class is within the showcase. Alright, that's the only container we want to style like this. So background is going to be white, and we're going to set opacity, oops, I'm going to set that to 0.7, and then we want some padding, which will be 20, and then 30 for the rest. So let's save that. Okay, so that gives it a see-through background. Now the button here, obviously I don't want that to be that color blue when the rest of the template's going to be this color blue. So let's go to our custom variables, and we want to go, let's find the buttons. Let's see. Alright, so it's a button. It's a primary button, so this right here, that's the text color, which is white. We want the background. Alright, so it's set to this brand primary. So let's see, where's that? Let's do a search for that. Okay, so right here. Oh, it was actually right at the top. So we want to change this to be the main color. So I'm going to get rid of this. Okay, we'll save. And now you can see that it's that bluish greenish color. Let's actually make this a little less see-through. So we'll change the opacity, let's say 0.8. Okay, so that's better. So that's pretty much the showcase. Next thing we want is the area down here with the icons. It'll have a bluish greenish background or whatever the main color is. So let's go back to index.html, and let's see, we're going to put a div, and let's give this a class of section-a. Alright, and then we're going to have a container. And we're going to use the grid system here. So let's create a row class. And then we're going to have 3 divs that will be 4 columns each. So div class call md4. Okay, and we're going to have 3 of these. And this is going to have an icon, so let's put an I tag here, and we'll say class equals FA. This is going to be the HTML5 icon, so FA-HTML5. Okay, and then under that we're going to have an H3, and the heading's going to be clean and simple code. Okay, then we'll have a paragraph, which is just going to have a couple sentences of dummy text. So let's paste that in. Alright, so I'm going to copy the icon, the heading, and the paragraph. Alright, and we're going to paste that in these two as well. So there and there. Alright, now this second one here, the icon is going to be a gear, so it's going to be FA-gear, and we'll change the heading. Let's change it to, we'll say Sass Precompiler. You can put anything you want, really. And then this icon is going to be a light bulb, so let's see, this is going to be FA-lightbulb-O. And then we'll change the heading to, let's change it to customizable. Alright, so let's go ahead and save that, see what we get. Okay, so notice the icons are really small, so we're gonna add some custom styling. So let's go to our custom SCSS file, and let's see, we're gonna put down here, we're gonna say section-A, and let's see what we want here. We want to add padding of 30 pixels 0. I want to align everything to the center, so we're going to say text align to the center, and the background is going to have, it's going to be that main color, so we can use that variable here. And let's see, the FA, the icon, is going to have a font size, and I actually want to put that as a variable. So inside custom variables, we'll go right here and let's say icon-size, and we'll set that to 60 pixels. Wait, is that what I want? Yeah, 60 pixels. So we'll save that, and then we'll put that in right here. Icon size. So let's go ahead and save it, reload, and there we go. Now, the text is dark, and we could simply just change it to white, but what if we want to change the main color to be a light color? Alright, so for instance, if I go to custom variables and we change this to a really light color and save it. Now, this looks good because it's dark text on a light background, but this doesn't. It's white. Now, what we can do is we can actually create a function that's going to check to see if the background color is dark. If it's dark, it'll give a white text, and we can check to see if it's light. If it's light, it'll be a dark text. All right, which is really cool, really helpful. So what we'll do is we're going to create inside the Sass folder a file called _functions.scss. Alright, and we're going to create a simple function here. We actually have to have an @ symbol right here. Okay, so function, we're going to call it set text color. Alright, and that's going to take in a parameter, which will be a color variable. And then what we can do is we can say if lightness, pass in the color. If lightness is greater than 50, then we're going to return the hexadecimal value for black. Alright, and then we can put an else. Okay, that should actually have an @ symbol as well. Else, then we want to return white. Alright, so this is a very helpful function. We'll go ahead and save that, and then we need to make sure we import it in through our main app CSS file. We're going to put it right below the variables. So we'll say import functions. Okay, we'll save that, and then let's go to our custom CSS file, and we want to use this. Let's see, we want to use this in our section A. So right here, we'll say color, set text color, and then we're going to pass in here main color, okay, because it takes a look at the background, which is this. If it's light, the text color will be black. If it's dark, the text color will be white. Now we also want to do that in the Nav Bar. Okay, so up in the Nav Bar, let's put A for the links, and then color, set text color, and we'll pass in main color. Alright, so let's go ahead and save that, and then let this reload. Okay, so let's see, that didn't work. Oh, you know what? We need to add an important flag here. Okay, then we'll save it. Okay, so now it has a dark color. Now if we go and change it back to the bluish greenish color and save, let it reload, the text is white. Okay, so it's basically a smart style sheet. Okay, it adapts, it's dynamic. So let's continue on. Down below here we're going to have another area. If we look at the final product, it's going to be this right here. We have an image, and then we're going to use this accordion from Bootstrap. Now in order to use this, we need to include JavaScript, our Bootstrap JavaScript file, which I don't think we included yet. So let's take a look in index.html. Down at the bottom here, we need a script tag source. Okay, now we need to include jQuery as well, because the Bootstrap JavaScript depends on jQuery, and that was installed if we look in Bootstrap Bower components. So jQuery dist and then jQuery JS. So let's go ahead and add that. So Bower components slash jQuery slash dist slash jQuery.js. Alright, now I'm going to copy that, and then we're going to include the Bootstrap.js. So Bootstrap-sass, let's see, Bootstrap-sass, let me just check this real quick, and then it's going to be in assets slash javascripts slash bootstrap.js. Alright, so let's save that. And that should also give us the responsive menu. If we go ahead and we make this smaller, we have this little button here, and now we have all of our links in this mobile menu. Alright, so let's continue on down here. Let's see, so after section A, we're going to put in section B. Actually, I'm going to just copy this, paste that in. We'll change this to section B, and this is going to use the grid system as well, but it's going to have 2, not 3, so we'll get rid of this last one, this column D4. Alright, and then we're going to change these to column D6, both of these, and then we'll just clear out everything inside of here and in here. Alright, now the image, we have to grab that as well. Let's grab it from Pexels. Let's see, what did I search for? Let's search for computer. I know it's here somewhere. The hell is it? Right here. This right here, this chip. So we're going to grab the 640 by 449, download that. I'm going to save it as cpu.jpg. Alright, so let's go ahead and insert that right in here. So img source, and that's going to be in the img folder slash cpu.jpg. Okay, let's save that, take a look. All right, now we want to actually make this the 100% width of its container. So we can go to our custom CSS or SCSS, and let's add down here dot section dash B, and then the image inside of that we want width 100%. All right. Now the background, we want to change that to this grayish color so that it kind of matches. So let's see. In section B, we're going to say background, and that's going to be a hexadecimal value. Let's see, where is it? So it's going to be E6EBF1. And then we're also going to add padding, 30 pixels on the top and bottom. And let's save that. Okay. So on this side, we're going to have our collapsible accordion. Now, that's a lot of code to write, so I'm going to just go to getbootstrap.com. And we're going to go to JavaScript and then collapse. And we want this accordion example right here. I'm just going to grab everything in here. So we'll copy that, bring it over to index.html, and we're going to paste it right in here in this call MD6. Okay, I'm just going to indent this a little bit. All right, let's save it. And we'll go back and take a look. And there we go. Now I want these panels, these headings, to have the main color as the background. So let's go to our custom CSS file in section B. And actually, you know what? Let's go outside of section B because we're going to use panels other places as well. And we'll say dot panel dash heading dash space H4. And we're going to set, let's see, we want the color to be dynamic, just like this. We want to use the set text color. So we'll paste that in. Now for the background, we need to do that in our variables. So let's go to custom variables, and I'm going to search for panel. And we want, let's see, we want panel background. Where is it? Or panel header background. The hell is it? Panel heading padding. Is it default? Right here, I think. Panel default heading background. Let's change that to main color. Let's see if that works. Yep. All right, good. So that's all set. Next thing is the newsletter area. So let's go back to index.html. And I'm just going to copy what we have for section A. And then we'll go down the bottom here. Paste that in. Change it to section C. And then we're going to get rid of, let's see, we're going to keep this call MD, but we're going to get rid of these two. All right, and then we want to change this to call MD8, but we want it to have an offset. Okay, we don't want it to go all the way across, but we want to move it to the middle. So we want to just add another class called call MD dash offset dash 2. Okay, we want to push it over 2 columns. And then let's get rid of all this. And then in here we want an H2. And we'll say subscribe to our newsletter. Okay, we'll put a line break. And I'm going to just grab a paragraph of dummy text. Okay, then we'll put an HR. And then we're going to have our form. Okay, form will have an input. Give it a type of text. And let's give it a class of form control. And also input-lg. That'll make it a little bigger. Alright, and then we'll give it a placeholder. We'll just say enter email. Okay, let's put another line break. And then our button. Button will have a class of btn, btn dash primary, btn dash lg, and then btn dash block. These are all Bootstrap classes. Okay, that'll say submit. And let's take a look. Alright, so you can see it's only 8 columns wide, but it's pushed to the middle because we added an offset of 2. Alright, so now we need to style this. So let's go to let's see, we want to go to custom SCSS, and let's see, section C, and we're going to add padding. This is going to have a little more padding. We're going to do 60 pixels, and margin top, we're going to set that to 40 pixels. We're going to align everything to the center. The background is going to be the main color. And let's see, the text will be dynamic. Let's grab that. Now, let's see what that looks like. Alright, so let's see, I don't want that there. Let's actually get rid of that margin top. Alright, now the button, you'll notice, is the same color as the background. So what I want to do is darken that a little bit. So let's actually add inside section C dot btn dash primary, and we're going to use the darken function. So darken, and then we'll pass in the main color, and then it's going to take a second parameter of the percentage we want to darken it. So we'll say 10%. So now we'll save, and now you can see the button is darker. Alright, so we're almost done with the home page. Let's just add the footer, which is very, very simple. Put a container. Alright, and we're just going to put a paragraph, and we'll say copyright. Let's put a copyright symbol here. 2016 BizLite theme. Okay, so we'll save that. And as far as the styling, that's going to be really simple as well. Let's set padding 30. In the background, I'm going to make the same color as that button. I'm going to darken the main color. So let's just copy that, throw that in, and then the color of the text will be dynamic with the set text color function. And there we go. Alright, so our index page is done. Now the inner pages are going to be very simple. So let's go ahead and create those. In the root, we want to create a file called about.html. We want a file called services.html, contact.html. Alright, now in the index page, let's fix the menu so that we can navigate to these pages. So home is going to go to index, about, we'll go to about.html, contact, and let's also add the services. Alright, so now what we're going to do is copy everything in here. So we're going to select all, copy it, and then go into About and paste that in. Okay, now let's start at the top here, and in the title I'm just going to add a pipe and then About. Okay, the menu and the nav bar, all that is going to stay the exact same. We don't want, let's see, showcase, we're going to change this to title bar. We are going to have a container, and then we'll have an H1, which will have the page title, and then I'm going to get rid of the paragraph and the button. Okay, so that's our title bar. Now we don't want section A or B. However, I am going to keep section C, which is the email form. Alright, now right here is where the main content will go. So let's say div class, excuse me, we'll set it to main. Okay, this will have a container. And let's see, we'll have a row. And this column will be an 8-column div, so call MD8. And then under that, we'll have a 4-column, which will be basically the sidebar. Alright, now we're going to have a panel in here. So div class panel, panel default. And let's see, we'll have div class panel heading, and inside the panel heading we'll have an H4 with a class of panel title. Alright, and then this will just say who we are. Okay, now below the panel title div, we're going to have a div with the class of panel body. And then this is just going to have a couple paragraphs. So I'm going to grab that from lipsum.com. Just copy 2 of those. And let's see, we'll put paragraph tags. Paste that in. And let's make sure we end this paragraph. And then start this one. Okay, so let's save that, and then we're going to go and click on About, and there's our About page. Let's make it so that the About link is active. So if we go up to the menu, we're going to just remove class active from home and put it on the About LI. Alright, now we're also going to have a list group in the sidebar, and I'm just going to actually grab that from Get Bootstrap. So if we go to Components, List Group, I'm going to grab this right here, the linked items. Okay, we'll just paste that in. Alright. And there we go. So there's our menu. So that's the About. Now the title bar, I want that styled a little bit. So let's go to Custom CSS. And we're going to go right here and say title bar. And I want that to have the same background image as the showcase. So this right here, we'll just copy that. All right. Instead of 100 pixels, I'm going to pull it up 300 pixels just to show it a little bit more. And we're going to add padding bottom, and that's going to be 10 pixels. All right, and I'm also going to add a border bottom, which will be 4 pixels solid, and it's going to be the main color. All right, so let's save that. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's add a margin to the main div right here. So we'll say dot main margin top 30 pixels. All right, so that's the about page. Now services is going to be very similar, so we're going to copy our about page, paste that in services, and let's just change some stuff. This right here in the title. Okay, we want to change the active class to this li. We want to change the title right here. Okay, the panel title, we'll say what we do, and in the body I'm going to clear out these 2 paragraphs. And we want to have our services within well divs. So I'm just going to paste this in. That's one. It's just a div with the class of well, an h4, and a paragraph. Alright, so we'll paste in 2 more of those. Okay, I'm just going to change this one to web development, and we'll change this one to SEO. Very simple. Okay, we'll save that. Let's click on services, and there's our services page. Okay, last one is contact, so I'm going to copy everything here in services and paste it in contact, and then we'll simply change the title. Okay, we'll change the active class. This. Okay, and then the H4 and the title right here, let's just say get in touch. And then let's clear out these well divs in the body. And then we just want a form here. And I'm actually going to paste this in just to save on time. Alright, so we just have a very simple form. We have div with the class of form group, label with name and input, same thing with email, and then message, which has a text area. So let's go ahead and save that, and we'll click on contact, and there we go. Alright, so our theme is now complete, and what's really nice about this is now if we go to our variables and we want to change the main color, let's say we want to change it to that light color, save it, you'll see that now it looks completely different, and the text is also dynamic, so it's the right color. If we wanted to change it to, let's say, I don't know, red, which will be very ugly, but we can do it if we want. Alright, so it's very customizable. So that's going to be it, guys. I will upload this code on GitHub. Hopefully it wasn't too confusing. I know it was kind of long and there was a lot to it, but hopefully it wasn't too bad. Alright, so thanks for watching. If you could subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, that'd be great. And thanks for watching.